to own it. Just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here. Oh, we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you.
Noah, you're finally here.
I am. Thank you so much, Sparkle, for having me.
Tell my viewers, like, okay, what you do. Because for a year and a half,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you on the show.
You have been.
Because you do, what I think you do is like really cool. I saw your video and it's just really cool. So tell
Yeah.
us all about what you're doing.
So what I'm doing, basically my story, and do you prefer me to look right here or look right here?
At
Either
me.
or. Okay. So my story is when I turned 40 years old, I was leaving the gym. I was training at Warrior Fitness. I was doing interval training and I had a pulmonary embolism.
Where's Warrior Fitness at?
I know it's in Northeast Fresno, but
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly where. So I had a pulmonary embolism, which basically means a piece of plaque kicked off in my body, and it set me off to have a major heart attack. So when I turned 40, I had a major heart attack. I became a millionaire when I turned 40. I divorced my high school sweetheart after we were together 23 years. I had crazy suicidal depression. So it's
From after the heart attack or before the heart attack? Where was the depression?
after.
Okay, so all this kind of hit. So it was a heart attack first,
Yeah.
then the divorce, then the depression. Okay.
Yeah, all these series of events.
And you were
then-
always kind of healthy, right?
I've been pretty healthy. I mean,
So the heart attack was that a hereditary? What did they say? Was it stress related?
you know what? They really couldn't pinpoint anything
'Cause that's really young to
specifically.
get a
It's real
heart-
young, yeah, especially when you're 40.
Because you were
So,
such a healthy, fit guy.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, I do try. I do give it effort when it comes to
Yeah,
that.
no, because you see, like, a lot of people not have that. So that's why I was wondering
yeah.
if they like attribute it to something.
No, they could never really pinpoint it exactly.
And it was
why.
like a full heart attack, like a
Full-blown heart attack. No history of the big things you'll find out is alcoholism, cigarettes, hereditary lifestyle, genetics or past family members. Those are like the big reasons it's
But you
happened.
didn't have any of
No, I
that.
didn't have any of those reasons. No. So
That's why it's so scary. I'm like, you can't even be a cautionary tale. You don't even know why. That's crazy. Okay.
Well, it was scary, and then part of my journey is really facing that fear and having my fear confront. Because after that happened, everything I did, because I do a lot in solitude. I'm just out on my own, so I really started grappling with the fear that it was going to happen again. So it was 90 days after my heart attack, and I just said, you know what? I just was choosing that I wasn't going to live my life in fear. So my story is I grabbed my dog, my ex-wife, they had a beagle, her and my son Isaiah. I got my dog, my gear, and my Bible, and I went to the snow-covered mountains for 2 days, and completely alone, really, cold, extreme weather. And I just said, God, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, but I'm not gonna live my life in fear. So the last 4 years of my life, I've pretty much lived like that now.
So you quit your job to do this full time to go climb mountains?
So, quitting my job. So I do have a job, it's probably just different. So my job is I have rental income that I rent. It's like short-term rentals, and that's how I pay and fund my trip. So
But what did you do before all that?
So for 19 years, I've been a loan officer. So
Okay, so you switched career, kind of. You switched income.
I mean,
sources.
pretty much, yeah. I had a good run at my career, I guess, and it was super stressful. So at the time of my heart attack, I tell everyone that my whole life except my finances were on fire. So my finances were dialed in, but mentally, spiritually, my relationship with my wife, everything else in my life was like on fire except for my money. And then after that event happened, I mean, I pretty much just like kind of lost my passion or desire to really do that anymore. So I don't really know what I'm gonna do anymore, but I just keep moving forward, I guess.
And then to these trips that you go on, where do you find out? Because like, how do you go and map this? Because you're doing some scary stuff. You're basically going on these hiking journeys, a lot of times solo. I know you take your
Yeah.
son sometimes. You have
So,
some friends that you take sometimes.
I do have a small little community. I call them, those are my road dogs. We get on the road. we go
Literally your road
wherever.
dogs.
Those are my road dogs. They're beautiful people, We have the love of nature in common, and we're down to get out in the mountains. So,
So how do you map these out and kind of know? And have you ever gotten really lost? Like, tell us some stories. I'm sure you got
So,
some wild ones.
I mean, I wing it a lot, Sparkle. I just wing it because that's kind of my nature.
Are we recommending this at home? I don't know if we're recommending that.
So, I mean, you know, life, you can't plan everything exactly perfect. I mean, I did that for a long time.
You
and then
can, but this could be kind of unsafe. We're telling everyone to just go wing it in the forest. I mean, you're fit. You have a little bit of sense of what you're doing.
No, that the part of like being in the mountains, I don't wing that part, but the actual adventures and what comes my way, a lot of the times it's not really pre-planned. I do have some like general things, but I mean, so last year, I mean, I was pretty aggressive on my road trip. I backpacked like 2,200 miles. I did my longest through hike, which is called the Colorado Trail. That was
How long did that take?
That was like 30 plus days. It was a 500-mile adventure in the mountains. So during this road trip too, I've climbed 50 peaks, a lot of them in the snow. So that's definitely the element of danger when you go out in the snow in the winter. That's when the real element of danger comes in. And honestly, that's what I love to do. And there's different degrees and different levels of it, but really nothing that I've done makes me feel more alive or more like, I don't know, it just gives me like, it's just an amazing feeling when you're on top of the peak and you do all that hard work and you do all the suffering, because it's, to get to the top, it is suffering. So I don't know, I have this thing about me where I have to suffer through things, and for some reason it just,
Pleasure out of pain. I love it. But
so.
I get it. I kind of get it. Oh my gosh, you just like took on this trek to do this. And then, but how did it start? You spent 2 days in the mountains, God, all that stuff. How was it like, okay, well now I'm going to do this trip and I'm going to do that trip. Like, how's it go into what it's exploded into in your life?
I mean, it's just, you know, it's like everything. I think that, you know, you're a very goal-orientated person and you like to get after your things. And and I'm the same way. And now I just use my energy in a different direction. And it's kind of like, you know, you do one thing, like I did the Colorado Trail and that was a great experience. And it's like, well, what about leveling up? What about doing an adventure that's longer? And a lot of things happen. It's a very, I mean, it's a very spiritual experience because you're just out there in nature. You really don't have a lot of the distractions. You're really able to have a lot of clarity mentally. So it's almost like, you know, when I did the Colorado Trail, it was a big deal because after my heart attack and all my series of events, like I just really couldn't stop crying. So it was pretty much like a 4-year period.
Really? Wow.
It's just a weird thing. You know, you mess around with the heart and you find out.
Literally. And that's, wow. So do you worry, what are your worries about now? Do you worry about that happening again, or you just want to make sure that you go out in a bang, like you're living life the way you want it? What's your fears now?
I don't have a fear of it happening again. I believe that
it doesn't seem like you do.
One-time event, and that, like I said, I'm not gonna live my life with the fear that it could be unfounded. It could happen, it couldn't happen, but I mean, I don't really. What was your specific question?
Well, you're like you're living life on your own terms, not kind of doing your thing. Like what? You're getting emotional. What kind of strives you now? Like what do you feel about this whole process in the past 4 years?
Well, you do like the Colorado Trail. I unlocked and I learned things about me, and I think that's driving me now. It's like, you know, I want to climb all the 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado. There's 58, and I'm at 31. And
wow.
You do that and you learn about yourself, or you unlock different things about yourself. So, you know, I said earlier I couldn't stop crying, and legitimately I just couldn't. Like my heart just got very soft. It's like every wall, everything that was around it, that was protecting it or making it hard.
Were you like that? Were you very like you didn't show emotion before then?
No, I wasn't, but I think my work career, it was just so intense and I was making so much money that I was just kind of like, always like, just go. And it just was a difficult thing all the time, you know, like my phone always ringing and always emails and always on the weekend. And it was just, I mean, I'm kind of like a private guy. I mean, I like to be in the mountains alone. So for me, it was really out of my comfort zone and really it was really a grind on me.
And you probably didn't go on a lot of trips because of work. You were like, you never were at rest because your work was so demanding.
Well, I went on a lot of trips because I had a team in place and I was pretty adamant about spending time with my family and not just making money and it being about that. But on my trips, it was always like, it was still in my mind, you know. It was hard for me to completely disconnect. After my heart attack, I think it was probably at least 4 months where I had completely decompressed from work and I just felt peace, I felt calmness, I didn't have the anxiety that I had carried for a long time. So, and then once I kind of tasted that peace, it was like, well, money's just money, like good money for, you know, to feel this way a lot. It wasn't really like a trade-off to me anymore. there's something to be said for having, you know, peace of mind and peace of heart and just being content. And I'm really content right now. And I've spent the last 14 months living out of my car in a tent, camping, and all kinds of wild different places. Like, I wake up and I see completely amazing sights that, I mean, make me cry even now. But I talked about like unlocking different things. So I was really having a hard time because I could not stop crying. And I was like, God, you know, like, am I going to cry forever? Like, is my heart going to heal? Like, so I did the John Muir Trail, and that was 200, and I backpacked, I think, 250 miles. It was like a 15-day trip. And I was like, for sure, if I spend this time in the mountains, that my heart's going to heal and I'm not going to cry. And that wasn't the case. I mean, my heart was still like, I was still mourning a lot of different things. And then I did the Colorado Trail, which was almost 40 days and 40 nights in the woods. And I was like, surely, if I go on this adventure, it's going to heal my heart and I don't have to be crying every day, right? Like, it's just in the past, why am I still mourning it, you know? And then the Colorado Trail, it's like it didn't pan out like I thought, I guess, or God wasn't ready to heal my heart, or I wasn't ready to heal. And then when I crossed over 1 year on the road, it was like 1 week before 1 year on the road, like I realized, I was like, oh shoot, like I'm not crying every day anymore. And then I realized, like, okay, that was the journey, I guess, that it took to heal my heart.
That's really cool. And so now that you're all in Colorado, so there's like a lot of uncharted territory you still have left in the United States alone, right? To look after, to hike.
It's a big world.
Apparently, wow. And then
all over.
What about outside the United States? What have we done?
Not a whole lot, but actually my goal this year is more international backpacking. That's one of my goals, yeah. I mean, my 3 goals are I want to do a really long through hike, like 2,000 plus miles. I want to finish the Colorado peaks, and then I want to do a lot of international backpacking. And, you know, I want the whole experience, you know, packing your gear, flying to a new country, you know, winging it, not having all the answers, not having the language come so easily, you know, just putting myself in those situations and then doing what I love to do the most, which is really taking pictures and capturing what I see and feeling the experience. And it's a pretty liberating experience, you know.
And the YouTube channel, you put a lot of it on the YouTube channel.
Well, I switched from YouTube to TikTok.
Is that why we don't see anyone on the YouTube channel? It's from YouTube. Okay, so now it's all on TikTok. Oh,
That's
boy,
pretty
now
much
you're
Talk.
gonna make me do that.
Talk is just so easy. It's such a great application. I could share my story. I love to share I love to share the stories, like the video footage, through Talk.
Okay.
Yeah. YouTube takes too long.
You get like a lot of people responding to like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people you haven't met that are reaching out to you. What is that like?
It's actually different for me. You know, my platform really forever was Facebook, and that whole community I knew or I had worked with, I interacted with. There wasn't like women that I didn't know or all these different people. It was like
These are your friends, and then now you have strangers
and
like
now,
me.
Yeah, now it's like on Talk. It's kind of a different feeling because there's these different people, and honestly, I do like the fact that my community, like on Facebook, knows me. They've met me. They've followed me. I know them. I feel comfortable with them. So it's different having different people follow me and reach out to me, and it is different.
Do they ask you for advice a lot? Because I bet sometimes people like, you know, if I'm going to go do this, you're the first person I would talk to.
Well, I think, you know what, I'm finding more and more it's really like a lot of men that reach out to me that, you know, maybe they want to know about my story. It's not necessarily the questions of like, well, how do you do it, or backpack or hike or do these things. It's more of like, how did I overcome that? What did my life look like?
That's cool.
How did I get here? So it's more like me maybe mentoring men, pretty much. That's more what I see. Mm-hmm.
Well, is there any like end game to this? Like, do you ever want to kind of have a reality show? Because I can see, you know, this is so fascinating. I just see this being so much more than what it is. So it's like, or write a book about it. Like, what? I'm sure you've thought of these things. I'm sure people ask you. So what's your answer to that?
You know what? Like I told you, Sparkle, I'm winging it, and I feel really good about that. And as God gives me different vision, or as I get different goals in my mind, then I'll explore it and move in that direction. So I'm pretty much just open to what comes, you know, as long as it's good and healthy for me and it makes me happy. Then
Do you journal this?
I journal through my Facebook, and then I video journal through TikTok. Yeah.
Do you have any personal journals about?
No, I don't.
That's all. But no, this is great. This is really fascinating. So, well, we can't all just take off work and do this. What's your advice to those of us that want a little bit of adventure but not crazy?
Well, adventure is one thing, and there's another thing to be bound by work. And I
I
work.
think most of us are bound by work.
Yeah, most of us are bound by work. That's the reality. And I worked 19 years as a loan officer, and I was in a high capacity. So I saw a lot of scenarios. I saw a lot of financial scenarios, right?
Oh,
Everyone's
so that's
coming to
even
me.
more scary, right?
Well, you're looking at it,
Yeah.
and the same things you see, and it's repetitive behavior. It's, you know, buying the super fancy car, buying the house, and having to do all the things to it, and then all the perks, the watches, everything else. And then it's like, how much weight does that really hold? And I'll tell you what, when you taste a little bit of peace and you kind of taste the other side, you look at that stuff differently because you realize that it changed you. So I think the first thing to do, my advice, is figure out how to get rid of those chains. You know, and once you could figure out how to get rid of those chains, put your mind to making passive income. Figure out, how's that going to look? You know, are you going to have for me, it was real estate, right? So do I work? Yeah, but generally my work is I have to call a plumber in, or there's a new tenant coming in.
But you had a little bit of a savings before when you started this journey, right?
So when I started this journey, I had basically $2,000 in savings. I had
Oh, so not really, you didn't have.
No, none at all.
Okay.
But I had purchased 1 year before I started this journey. I purchased an investment property, and I paid cash for it, and then I rehabbed it from start to finish.
Okay, so that
and
helped
it literally wiped out all my money, except for $2,000. So when I drove away from the property, I knew that I only had $2,000.
Well, did you sell the property?
No, I rent them out.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're making money back from it a little bit. You
I'm making my money
invested it
back
and
from
now-
it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So basically, that's what I did. It was pretty much part of my plan. So, I mean, you have to have a plan too. You have to have a little bit of vision. You're not going to find that sitting on the couch all day just watching TV and looking at your phone. You have to look inside yourself. It's like, well, what do you want in this life? What are you willing to do for it? Are you going to suffer for it? Are you going to postpone gratification for it? Are you not going to do all these things that hold you in bondage? Because once you could figure out how to get off the chain, I mean, the world's pretty awesome to go see. And this thing of our country where people are taking a few weeks off a year or a month or something like that, that's not enough time to find yourself. I mean, it's good for seasons because you have to grind. And believe me, I've had my seasons where I grind really hard. And now I just grind really hard in the mountain.
Well, yeah, Europe has it better. Like you said, this country, because Europe, I know they're always on. They value vacations in some of those spots more than we do. So I get it. Like, we definitely need to get on board with that, with getting more of like, yeah.
I love to encourage people in that way. My favorite things to talk about, honestly, is like real estate investing and passive income, and then being out in nature. So,
Well, I've talked about like how some of my happiest times in life are when I had less. It's like, but I understand like having that freedom of not having all these things that you have to tend to.
yeah.
I get it.
Well, it's kind of like the progressive journey, but when I was 29 to I think about 32, I mean, that was quite some time ago, but my mortgage payment was $3,900.
That's big.
It's a lot of money.
Especially for, yeah. I mean,
So you look back at those things and it's like, well, what value did that add to me? I remember I was stressed because that was a big stroke I had to
that's
make every month.
huge. Wow.
So,
Especially back then, were you living in a palace? Like,
I mean, it's just,
that's a big ad.
I was in Monterey County. It's really expensive
Okay.
over there. So
Wow.
now I tell people, it's like, don't do that. Like, buy income producing properties. See you know what it likes to write the check out. Everyone knows what that's like. But see what it feels like to get the check in. You know, like when I'm on my phone and I check my Venmo and I'm making sure all my tenants are paying, it's like, it's a good ass feeling. It's like, that's what I do for my work.
That's awesome. And how does your son feel about all this? I know you took him on some trips and now he gets to see this transformation in you. How old is he?
My son's 20 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did all this start? He was like in his teens then.
He was, yeah. He saw two sides of dad. He saw dad, the grinder, the hustler, the money maker, the provider, the kind of the, you know, maybe even the stressed dad and stuff like that.
Now
And
he sees a peaceful one.
now he sees this dad and he digs this dad a lot. He joined me 4 times on this road trip. I flew him in 2 times. So we've had some amazing adventures together. And those are the things that fill my soul. I'm not going to stop those things. It's just going to keep growing and getting better. And, you know, that's what I believe and that's what I want. So my son, he looks up to me a lot. So it means a lot to me that I could set a good example for him. That I could just tell him, I don't just tell him, hey, trace your dreams, dude. It's like, I'm chasing my dream right now. Whether it's making lots of money or not, whatever. I'm chasing my dream, you know. So you chase your dream. And he will.
What does he do now? Is he in school?
He's just the most beautiful kid, super intelligent.
And now athletic. I mean, he's super physical too now. He's got the hiking down.
He's got the hiking down. I've had him on some wild missions. When he was 13 years old, I took him to do Mount Whitney, which is, Mount Whitney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the highest mountain in America, less Alaska. And my goal for doing that trip with him was to have a manhood ceremony with him at the top of the mountain. So we climbed that mountain in 2 days. It was a walk up. He said it was the hardest thing he had ever done in his life. He really had to overcome altitude sickness and just physically. And I'll never forget, as we got to the summit of Mount Whitney, I was behind him and I saw his arms go up and he was just like so ecstatic. And I sat with him and I had a manhood ceremony with him, basically telling him what my expectation of him what is to be a man, what it looks like to be a man, that I believed in him, that if he can climb this mountain, imagine what else he could do in his life. And then I gave him a gift, and we recorded it all on GoPro. And then we were about a fourth of the way down the mountain, and he said, "Dad, I left the GoPro at the top of the mountain." So we never actually got to see that footage.
Well, I'm glad this is during your patient calm phase. I would have been like,
It was patient calm phase. I was like, I'm not going to go back up and get it.
oh my. Have you ever thought about doing the rock climbing? Because I like the rock climbing. I like hiking, but I like the rock climbing. Do you ever incorporate some of that or not really?
So on the mountains I've climbed, yes, there's a lot of different variations of the rock climbing. I mean, I've done a lot of the class 4 and some class 5, which is, I mean, it could be pretty intense. It's intense. What am I talking about? Yeah. So it hasn't been a huge part of what I've done, but I mean, it's definitely a part of what I've done.
Well, I know some of the rock climbers have followed you because one of my friends is like one of the best like rock climbers in town, and he goes ice climbing, which I think is just completely psychotic because he's like literally using a pick to go up the ice. And then and so he knew about your adventures, and
Did
so
you really?
yeah.
Right.
So I was like, I mean, you guys are both like a little bit adventure daredevilish.
I've had a lot of people surprise me. When I was in Montana at the Grand Tetons, I was in the parking lot of the trailhead, and that morning I get up and then someone across the parking lot, they yell Noah, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he approached me. He said that he had been watching my adventures for the last year, and we just had a connection right there in the parking lot. He cooked me coffee, and it was kind of cool to see that.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully one day I can go at the event. I know we've talked about that, but hopefully it's not one of the cold ones.
No, cool.
I hope it's not one of the cold ones. But yes, I would love to go. And thank you for coming on the show finally.
You're
A year
very
and a half in the
welcome,
making.
Sparkle.
A year and a half in the making. So thank
My
you.
pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for doing my hair. So you do a really good job. You do these great blowouts, and it's fun. It was relaxing.
That's good.
It's hard for me to get in that seat. I really don't like sitting down and just like relaxing. I have a hard time.
Yeah.
And you made me feel amazing that day. So this is like what you do. Tell us what you do.
I mainly do color, and I feel like I do a lot of blowouts. Those are like the main two things I do. And then people usually get haircuts too while they're there. If they're thinking about it.
Right on. And you're good at doing the fade too with the guys, right? I see some of your work with that. I saw some of the photos.
Yeah, I do men's hair. I definitely don't promote it as much, but
Because
I do
it's
know
a
how to do
pain.
men's.
It's a pain. Is that why it's stressful?
No, I I used to work at a barbershop very briefly, and I didn't like it. So I'm okay with the
What did
men's
you like
client.
about it? You gotta dish that now that you brought it up.
It just wasn't my vibe, and there was definitely people I didn't agree with when I worked there. So I just had to get out of
But
there.
what about the clients? Were they get particular? Or they were okay with it.
I was okay with the clients.
The clients didn't like say, "What'd you do to my hair?" They were okay.
Yeah, no, I felt like
Okay.
they were good to me, most of them. But it was just a really hard place to work at.
Well, who's weirder, guys or girls, when it comes to doing your hair? Because I feel like women, like if you mess up in their hair, they're gonna like. But I know you're not with the blowouts and the dye. You should be good, but sometimes they get like, and then sometimes they don't understand the process that you have to do a certain color takes like 3 different treatments, and then they expect you to work a miracle. You snap your fingers and their hair is the way you want it. Do they ever get upset or not really?
Personally, for me, not really.
That's good.
I
But you're good, so that.
I always tell them, like, if there's anything you want me to adjust, I can have you come back, and then even if I'm not happy with it, I'll tell you, I don't like the way this looks. Can I have you come back like tomorrow? Because
That's all. You're a perfectionist.
I am. I'll be thinking about it like when I go to bed, like, oh my
Wow.
God, I really messed up on that person's hair. Like, I cannot have them out.
And they
in
don't
public.
even like worry about it, and it's you're the one that's more worried about it.
Sometimes, yeah, I'm like, I don't like this about like how your color came out. Like, it didn't give what I wanted it to. And this actually happened recently. She didn't see what was wrong. She's like, I like it. And I was like, yeah, but it could be better. So I want you to come back.
That
And
is funny.
I just had to do it.
But that's good. I like someone that goes above and beyond instead of like, get out of here, you're done.
Yeah.
So guys and girls are both good with you. They're both like agreeable. They don't get too.
Not really. I at least now, maybe when I was first starting, I feel like I had a lot more people complaining. But I mean, I feel like that's with everybody.
Oh, that's just
we're
because
all
you were starting
learning,
out. Yeah. But so now you got down like a fine machine. Like.
Yeah, I know what I can do, and if I feel like I can't, then I'll refer you to somebody else.
And that's what I like about you, because that's what you said. This is what I do. You know, I don't do any like braids or anything.
Yeah.
You're like, know what you do. You're not, and you don't like to really style like for weddings.
No, I definitely don't like the formal styling. Definitely can't do braids. I don't even know how to braid. I can't. It's just something I'm not good at.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all these colors? What's the deal with colors? Because I know people were doing the ombre for a while. What's the fad now?
I feel like it's still like the lived-in balayage kind of color. That's like the main thing.
Is that because people didn't want to go in to get their roots done a lot? Is that why that became like a thing?
I feel like that's part of it, but also now it just looks so seamless, and there isn't like harsh lines like there was before. So you're not like a slave to going into the salon every like 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
So a lot of people like that it's not as much maintenance.
Do you talk people out of things sometimes?
Yeah. If I feel like it's a bad idea, I will tell them like, it's gonna do this and I know you don't like this, so I don't think you should do it. But if you want to, I will. But I'm letting you know the risk.
Well, and then I think the biggest problem is that you bring a picture in and people expect it, but it's like it's really hard. I mean, because everybody's hair is different. They're like, there's
Right.
no way, even if I do everything in my power, you're not going to look like that. I mean, it's that hard. What do you say?
Yeah, sometimes some of the inspiration pictures are literally wigs. And I'm like, that's not even real hair, so it's not gonna come out like that. And especially if it's their first time, I always tell them like, I've never done your hair before. Everyone's hair is different. I don't know what kind of outcome we're gonna get. It takes me a few times on doing it to know how their hair reacts, to know what kind of result they're gonna get.
So is some hair more sensitive than others? Like it colors faster than others? And then is that what's the deal? And what's the different in hair? Is it texture?
Yeah, texture, age could be a factor too. Sometimes it's just more resistant.
Really? So it's like harder the older you get, the color resistance?
It can be, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes you can have the same formula of your color for 20 years. Then like one day it just doesn't want to take it anymore. And then we have to adjust from there.
So how do you adjust that?
Usually you have to go darker, which a lot of people don't like, or they can start putting in highlights to kind of blend it in.
Man.
Yeah.
I just have a lot to look forward to when I get older. Well, that's really cool. So, is there anybody's hairs that we would know that we've seen? Have you done like any for like a commercial or like anybody that we would know? Any famous Fresno people that you've done their hair?
No, I haven't. You?
I'll take that. You did a great job. So, how in advance do we have to book?
It depends on the week, honestly. I allow up to 90 days, but sometimes I have openings that same week. It just really depends on.
Oh,
what
good.
it
So
is.
you don't like way in advance either.
No, I don't pre-book a lot of people. I just like leaving it more open because last minute things do happen.
Exactly. Sometimes people try to get on their show like a month, and I'm like,
Yeah, and
I don't even
mean,
know where I'll be in 4 months.
and same with me too. Like I don't know what's gonna happen next week. Like what if I like get in a car accident or something? Then I
Yeah.
have to move all these appointments, and if I'm booked 3 months in advance, that really sucks for all those clients.
Right, exactly. No, I totally get it. Well, that's what I like about you too, because sometimes you have to book that with people. You have to book so far in advance, and they're just like
Yeah.
really booked solid. It is like everyone's not going to keep that appointment.
Yeah, some people don't, and then they'll cancel like last minute.
Never do that, guys. Never do that. So you're in the heart of Old Town Clovis now, and then what does it take? So if we want to get a blowout, that takes about 60 minutes, 90 minutes,
Usually about an hour, yeah.
an hour. So you know to plan that, and then most dyes are like an hour and a half because you usually blow dry their hair after they dye it, right? Or you send them home wet.
No, I blow dry everybody.
So factor in about 90 minutes for that.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of color they're getting. Just like a basic root touch-up, it's usually like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, they're doing roots. That could take 3 hours, huh? Or highlights. We're doing highlights. I mean, that's what I meant.
yeah,
So
it
I
would.
said roots.
Yeah,
Highlights.
highlights probably like about 3 hours.
Wow.
And some people take 8 hours, depending on what they're doing.
You've done 8-hour hairdos?
I've done 12 too.
So what did they get done?
Usually they're doing like the full-on bleach, and I do a lot of vivid colors, so it's 2 steps. I have to lighten them first, and then I'll do whatever color they're wanting to do from there.
Is that safe to all do in one day, or is it better to do one day and come back the next day? Is that really good to just put so much on your hair, like right? Or it doesn't matter? I don't know.
It depends on their hair, because some people's hair can handle it, and some people can't.
So you kind of tell them you might want to come back
Yeah.
tomorrow or 2 days from now, and like.
Yeah, I'll have them come back at a different time, or sometimes they even have to wait longer, like a month, because they need to do treatments in between to get it to that point where they can redo it again.
Wow. And how hard is it to do the switcheroo? Because my friend Sam Wolf, we were doing this movie together, and she was doing. We were doing 2 movies together, and she had to switch back her hair from like blonde, like pretty much pretty bleach, to like a brown, but not this brown, like a lighter brown. And she had to go back and forth for like these movies we're doing. How bad is that for your hair?
It's pretty bad, honestly. Every time you're doing that, it's causing damage.
Pretty much every time you bleach your hair. Every time you dye your hair, just bleach your hair.
Both. Even just the sun can damage your hair.
So what about getting a roots done? Is that really bad if we get our roots done like every few weeks?
No, but I mean, it technically still does damage, just not to like a high degree. Like as long as you're doing it safely and like within time limits, and you can add treatments to it too.
So it's not, so it is okay. And then what's the difference when you're doing it at home and then you do it with your hairdresser? Because I know a lot of people do that to save money. They'll go to their hairdresser every 6 weeks, but then in between they'll get the stuff to just do their roots at home. Is that bad or good or?
It depends. I usually tell my clients, like, if they're going to do it themselves, to get something from, like, Sally's and not, like, a box dye. Because box dyes are usually formulated for everybody. So you don't really know what you're getting in the box, like, with what you're mixing. And so that's why I tell them, like, get this at Sally's and then only do, like, this part of your hair. Like, don't pull it all the way through. Because that can cause more damage than it needs.
Right, and that's just from box. Wait, do you have a box brand that you like the most?
No. I've never really looked into them, honestly. But
Do you know one that's really bad that we shouldn't be doing at all? Have you seen people come with a lot of damage from a certain product or not really?
Usually the ones that have like metallic salts are the ones that are really bad.
Metallic salsa. Look at that. Look in the ingredients.
Yeah, I think I can't remember the brand right now, but I know that when you try to lighten hair like with bleach, usually people's hair will like start smoking, and that's just it doesn't mix.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary.
There's a lot of videos you can see online. You can see
I do
people's
not
hair.
want to.
They'll literally be smoking in like the foils. It's really crazy.
Oh my
And it'll
god.
happen within minutes.
So just that's never happened to you though. Well,
No, but I did have a crazy experience
Tell
where
us.
this client's hair turned green, and she said, "Oh yeah, it's virgin." And then I asked her again. I'm like, "Are you sure? Because your hair's turning green." And she's like, "Oh, actually, yeah, I did do something to it." And I was like, "We need to wash you out like right now."
How'd you get it to be on green?
I don't know exactly
Did
what
you
it
strip
was.
it?
Oh, I was bleaching it because she
So
wanted
after,
to do
but when it
so.
was turning green, what'd you do to correct it to make it not look green anymore?
So what she was going for, she kind of wanted green anyway,
Oh, okay.
but that's not normal for it to do that. So that's why I was like, what do you have on your hair? Because obviously it's not what you told me. And so that was pretty scary.
She was
'cause
lying to her hairdresser? That's weird.
her hair definitely could have fell off if we went further.
Oh my goodness, that is so scary.
Yeah.
What do you suggest for shampoos? Because okay, so when I do the shampoos, I do use the product. Like so I'll go up a notch for the shampoos. Is that what you recommend, or?
I would, especially if you're doing color, because that will help with it lasting longer. Especially
Then if you go
'cause
to Pantene or something.
I definitely would not recommend Pantene.
Why?
I've noticed that it just leaves a lot of buildup. And I don't know if you've seen that there was a lawsuit with them with people losing their hair.
Oh my goodness. I used to use it back in the. It's been a long time. Now I've gone like higher end with the shampoos. Now I've tried to do that.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what ingredient it was, but it was something with their ingredients that it was having adverse effects.
What about herbal essence?
I think it's a similar situation.
I know they stopped those like orgasm in the shower like commercials. Remember when girls were always like, "Oh my gosh, my hair, yes, yes," with the herbal essence. Remember that was like the fad for like the 90s.
I think so.
Yeah, and they kind of stopped. I don't even see commercials anymore. So I was like, "What happened with the herbal essence commercial? Are they get a lawsuit?"
I don't know.
They might. Maybe they did too.
Probably.
Yeah, because that kind of stopped. Okay, so what are if for as far as high end that you can get that we can like order online? What should we be ordering? What are some good shampoos you like?
Most of the professional ones I would say are pretty good. It doesn't. I'm not
Like the Wellas or
Yeah, that's the brand that I use, Wella. But I'm not faithful to one brand. Like if something works for one person, then stick to it. As long as it's like something with good ingredients. That's the main thing I tell people to look at is the ingredients to avoid certain ones.
And then as far as applying heat to our hair, are we supposed to always put like a like coconut oil? What are we supposed to put on our hair every time we apply heat? What's some of the good product for us to do that?
A heat protectant. The one that you use, it doesn't really, as long as it's not like a drugstore one, but like a professional one. But there's different like versions of them that you can get. Some of them are aerosol, some of them are spray.
And it keeps it shiny and it protects from the heat, right?
Yeah, some of them also add shine, but it's mainly to protect your hair.
So what's one of the ones you recommend?
One of the ones I use is Redken. It's called Redken Hot Off the Press.
Oh, we can't get that at the drugstore? I thought we used to get we don't get that at the drugstore.
You might. Sometimes I've seen some professional
That's
brands
what
at
I
the
thought.
store.
And with hairspray, does hairspray matter of what brand we use, or we can kind of go? We can't go too cheap with hairspray. We can go middle of the road. We can get hairspray from the drugstore, can't we?
Yeah, I just make sure to not do it too close.
Yeah, you want me to spend like so much on my hair every day, gee.
Yeah, you got to.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show. What's your Insta so we can all follow you?
It's Hair by Alonzo.
And do you do a lot of before and afters?
Not so much anymore, but sometimes I will post the before and afters.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to come to you more often. You're in Old Town Clovis, so everyone needs to go to you. George, thank you so much for coming on my show. I've been wanting you for a while because this is awesome. Tell us about it.
Thank you very much. Well, it has kind of a long on and off history. It's been kind of my on again, off again life's work. It's my first novel at the ripe old age of 56, middle-aged still.
Hey, there's no time like the present, though. This is good.
Yeah.
That might be when I write my first novel, so you give me hope.
Yeah, and so I got the bug from finding out that you could self-publish on Amazon and the like.
And this is a good job, too. Like, this is good quality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so I'm working on an action thriller novel right now, but this has, first of all, when I was in junior high, I came up with the first prototype character of the main character. And so it took a few years before I finally figured out a story that I thought, that would be worth writing around him.
So is this you came up with this character in junior high?
Yeah.
I love that, and you don't understand it because you're my hero right now because I'm a writer too, and I've been writing since I was
poetry
that
and
age. No, I've been published since I was young, but not with books, and so I have ideas from that time. And like I said, I might not get right, and it's funny that they never die, right? These characters never die.
Yeah.
And so I love that you had this idea this whole time. Okay, so what gave you like now's the time to write this?
Well, let's see. It was in 1983. I finally thought, I'd kind of finally been kind of fed up with one of my pet peeves, which is people who are different being treated wrong. And I thought that's what I'll do. I'll have him, get stuck on a planet that's, a totalitarian dictatorship and sort of like Star Trek and the Orville and all that. The Earth is Earth and a lot of planets, but of course not all of them. They're better off than Earth is now, rather than worse, like in the usual doomsday sci-fi. So it's the 24th century, and they're Captain Gage's old space force, which we call the Circle of Allied Systems. They've reached out to the planet Reveltus because something happened in the past that caused tensions between them, and they have been, asking them, how about if we have a peace talk? You don't have to join the circle, but and so they finally agreed, and it turns out that Gage's best friend, who's still part of the circle, he was to transport some interplanetary peace delegates to the to the peace talks, and Gage learns that they haven't arrived, so that's kind of like the launching pad for the plot.
Wow.
And basically, so the dictator of the alien planet that they end up stuck on, he's the antagonist, and he's in direct opposition to the basic message of the thing, which is, people who of literally different worlds, in the case of space stories and all that, trying to put aside their differences, and they might still have some conflicts, but and try to benefit from one another. And the bad guy, I mean, he loves his mom and all that, but he had a childhood trauma that kind of involved her, and he forgave her for it, but he became distrustful of anyone that was different, and he was so bitter. Little by little, he found sympathizers, and he rose to power. He overthrew the previous ruler, and he rules with an iron fist, to say the least, and he persecutes anyone that's different. So Outworlders, of course, are pretty different. So that's kind of the main thing. So it's all about the different ordeals that they go through in order to rescue the peace talk ambassadors, any of them that are survived, the passengers and the crew that are still alive. And they're thinking, the peace talks are soon and all that. And of course, they have their worst case scenarios. What if the other planet thinks that, it was false truths, or that, all kinds of things. And so that's pretty much it. There's kind of a little bit of a romantic, some people might call it a subplot. And
you got to have a little romance.
Yeah. And really, by some people's definition, the whole thing is science fiction was first called scientific romance, in over 100 years ago. And if you kind of look at a lot of science fiction, how a lot of it's all sleek and futuristic, and of course, we have to start somewhere, but of course, we know real space travel is being cumbersome and slow and risky. So it is kind of romanticized, because space operas, like it said, Wikipedia has a good definition. Space opera is a story that it has nothing to do, the term has nothing to do with music, and it's analogous to soap operas, and they romanticize romanticize space travel and all that stuff. So it's kind of romantic anyway.
Now, so that's an interesting etymology. But I like how you have the antagonist as being giving him a relatable backstory. Because I don't like when people are just like, "That's the bad guy, that's that." You have to know. Like, I mean, everything comes from somewhere, and I'm really glad that you put that somewhere together. That's going to be really exciting. When you have a good antagonist and a good protagonist, that's what makes a good story. So I'm excited about this.
No, thanks. Let's see. And I kept trying to write it since the 80s, and after a while I gave up. I got frustrated, and after a while I tried again, and I changed a lot of the supporting characters, but a couple of them are mentioned in the captain's backstory. So yeah, like you say, they never die. And in 2005, in 2005, I wrote it as a screenplay. I might rewrite it now that.
Okay.
Yep. And, I even got an agent briefly because they believed in the potential of it. And, I got a critique, and it says, and of course, they said it needs a lot of work, and it was like, that's okay because it's your first screenplay. So I may rewrite that one eventually, maybe after finishing my action thriller novel.
You had an agent for the screenplay or for the book? Was it a book agent?
It was a literary agent that also
did
represented screenplays.
Okay.
Because that was my pet project, but it was still that story. And so after a while, they said they had to what do they call it?
Size or client list.
Yeah.
They did a lot.
And so I thought, well, that's okay. Maybe I'll find another agent. I'll probably look for one again pretty soon. And so I thought, when I heard that you could, by Amazon and stuff like that, I thought I'm going to write it as a novel like it was first meant to be.
What made you decide to switch to ever make it a screenplay?
I don't remember exactly, just I love movies.
I'm sure you saw it like that in your head. I mean, every time you write a book, you see a book as a movie in your head. So.
Yeah, and so sometimes I think of various red-haired pretty actresses as, what if it was made into a movie and they played the chief engineer here on the front cover?
So how old are these characters supposed to be?
The captain is 42 and the chief engineer is 40. And what else? Oh, the little insignia on here. I came up with that back in high school when I was a freshman, and a lot of times I'd like to flip my, the paper book covers inside out to draw on them, and I draw prototypes of that insignia.
So this had happened, and oh my God, I love that. That's a great backstory. Well, yeah, now you can make it back into a movie. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, it might, and so, the main character is kind of a bleeding heart, and he doesn't like, he's open-minded to other kind of races, which is a good idea because he comes across all kinds of aliens and stuff. And there's some serving under him, and so basically, that's pretty much it. But of course, it was, it's sometimes you gotta survive the struggles and the heart attacks and the setbacks, and sometimes I'm like, I better lay off for a couple of days, but I still, and a couple of days before Halloween was my latest high school reunion, and of course I posted that it was published all over Facebook, and people were congratulating me, and they're like, "Hey, I heard you published a novel," or they're like that, and people were asking me about it real enthusiastically, and one guy said, "Well, you never know, one of your novels might hit it big, and you deserve it, you sure have a lot of patience."
Did any of them know about the story? Any of the people at your high school reunion? Had you told them a little bit about it when it was developing in your head?
Some people, I'm sure some people like my family and my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend and stuff for sure. And in a writer's group I was in to try to develop it many years ago. And like that, so they were all real. And when I went to Vegas about 3 weeks before that, about a month before that, And of course, by then, a lot of my family on my dad's and my mom's side, they're all excited, and they bought some copies. And so as soon as I met up with them in Vegas, it's like, "Hey, author, how you doing? Yeah, that's great." And my dad was like, "Boy, your cousin Mikhail became last fall became a judge up in the Bay Area, and now you're a published novel and not published novelist." So it's available. It's available, of course, in all the formats: paperback, ebook, and hardcover.
And Amazon, we can get it. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's right. Yeah, and so it's pretty much the rest is history. That pretty much was the history of it.
What about the second book you're working on? Does it have any correlation to this, or is it a whole new project?
It's a whole new thing. I hope to write a sequel, not necessarily a direct sequel, but a whole self-contained thing, preferably inspired by ancient astronaut theory, the Ancient Aliens TV show on the History Channel really inspired me. Once ran into a guy at one of those smoke shops, and he had it on TV. He goes, "That's Ancient Aliens, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah, it provokes thought." And I go, "As a science fiction writer, it inspires me." So basically, in fact, I even made a concept cover for that on Canva.com, and in my science fiction and fantasy, Fresno-based science fiction and fantasy universe Facebook page, I posted it a long time. I think it's once again the group cover, but I had the characters made on Canva, and I did the rest of it myself.
I love that. Yeah, when you sent me those characters, I was like, this is really cool. That shows how like people could really, you can almost like do it all yourself.
Yeah, as much as possible. I was kind of tearing my hair out trying to create a clickable table of contents for the ebook, and I caved in and just spent maybe not even $20 for someone on Fiverr to do it. So little by little, we each made sure the other understood each of our instructions. So that's out now.
Wow, so this is like almost 40 years in the making, pretty much, this book.
Yep, almost 40 years.
I love it. So the story you're working on now, did you also create that when you were younger?
Yeah, at City College, I kind of mulled it over. It was basically about 3 travel agents who are also veterans of different branches. And it's like, in some ways, it's like travel agents who fight crime, but, they use their military skills and all that. And it's about, so right now it's titled Golden Crescents, because I found out there was 2 more than one Golden Crescent area in the world. I think there might be 3, and so 2 characters are from a different area called the Golden Crescent, and the bad guy is a major heroin king from the Middle East, and we even have pirates as well as assassins and all that. Of course, the fair people loved it when I told them it's got pirates, and a lot of things. An arms dealer has a bit part so far, and different kinds of people, and.
How fun. Well, this is really exciting. So where do we follow you and find out what you're working on?
Facebook would be a good idea, my self-named, and also on the science fiction fantasy, I post a lot of science fiction stuff, so I posted it on there, and I believe you post previews of the show on there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's cool. I let you, I think it's kind of cool. And so, these 3 travel agents, they go to Hawaii to investigate a client's death, and they end up in the crosshairs of the drug dealer and his assassins and all that.
Wow, where do you come up with all this stuff?
It isn't easy. It took time, because then I came up with that at City College. I had a dream about this Japanese girl that I sat by as often as possible in speech class, and a black guy in my poetry class that was real cool, and sometimes we talk about poetry and stuff. And he was a Star Trek fan too, but that's more along those lines. And I dreamed I was at City College and no one else was there but those 2. She was off in the distance, and he showed me that he was, packing a gun.
So are you guys the 3 travel agents that inspired
That's what
you?
inspired the, yeah.
Do they even know this? You still know these people at all?
No, I never said nothing.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Like, can you imagine there are people out there that don't even know they're inspiring a story? I love that.
Yeah, because I told a friend when I started Fresno State, she goes, if you could have told her, she might have been flattered.
I would be flattered if someone was writing a book about. That's so cool, George.
Thank you so much.
Well, we all got to get ourselves a copy on Amazon. So, and it's on Kindle too, or like where you can get it like electronically.
Yeah, on Kindle you get it in ebook.
I like real books, but
So
I
do
know
I.
some people like.
Yeah, but it's you could spend less money on the real. I mean, on the ebook, but then none of them.
I like
are,
a real book. I'm a real book kind of girl. So.
Me too. I have the print book, but not.
And it's a good gift.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. On Christmas time, one of my Facebook friends, he said he bought a whole bunch, at least a handful of them, and he was going to pass them out to his kids and his dad and stuff. So.
So this is kid friendly?
Oh yeah, it's PG, you know.
Yeah. What's this really geared for? What age group do you think it's geared for mostly?
Well, of course, it's good for young people, but young people and up, even young adults, will probably appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah, and I've been another struggle I've been having is to write a young adult novels that are kind of sci-fi, fantasy, and kind of humorous. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that's another thing that was inspired by elementary school when me and my friends would be pretending, you know, we were locking horns with aliens and stuff like that.
I love it. I love that you kept it alive. I love that you came back to these ideas. So thank you so much for coming on my show today, George.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that we finally
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've been following us for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know this is so great, and that's great to see like all that your success. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
We'll have you coming on for the next book.
Oh yeah, I'll be coming on for the next book, definitely.
Sounds good.
Felt right in the moment, felt right in the summertime. It felt right drinking cherry wine with you. Just wanted to own it, just wanted to take the time, learn all the things that I could about you. Now it's such a mess here, oh we are just stressed here. Used to be so easy with you. Now I must confess here, oh I must confess dear, don't think I'm in love with you. Winter is coming and I don't know what to do, and there's no more use in running, no more running to you. And I don't want your loving, I don't wanna be just friends, knowing all this time we were playing pretend.
It's a mystery.
Hi, I'm Sparkle Sujin, and I am the host of the Everything Sparkle Show. I would like to invite you to come and hang out with me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, as I interview the world one guest at a time. Everything Sparkle is available on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and CMAC.tv. Plus, if you're in the Central California area, you can watch on Comcast Xfinity Channel 93 or AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Hope to see you there.